Hello, and thank you for joining the CNA Instructor's Secret Cocktail. I'm your pusher, Victoria Randle, and I'm here to talk to you today about your CNA evaluation criteria. Okay, remember we talked about that in one of my videos. So today we're going to focus on the clinical aspect, okay? So I'm going to help you formulate and put together your own CNA evaluation criteria tool. Before we get started, please click that subscribe button for me so that you can get more great videos just like this one that'll help give you all the information you need for your CNA school. And if you're not already getting my emails, please click in the link below. You'll see a link so that you can subscribe to my email list as well. I send out all kinds of freebies all the time about information that I'm sure you could benefit from. So be sure to click that for me too, okay? So let's get started. We're going to talk about the key elements that are needed for your evaluation criteria for clinicals. All right, so let me talk first about interpersonal skills, okay? Be sure that there's a section that addresses interpersonal and professional skills. I'm gonna say that one more time. Interpersonal and professional skills. This area talks mostly about respect, about acceptance to criticism, because you're going to be critiquing them, right? About their proper judgment calls and completion of assignments on time. Now, let me just kind of give you an example about poor judgment calls. In clinical, we don't want to see them on the elevator talking to another CNA student about how Miss Brown had a code brown, right? We don't want them talking about that, because Mrs. Brown's niece could be in that elevator too. So that's a part of professionalism and interpersonal skills, okay? So think about that. That's something that should be in their evaluation criteria. Another one would be the ability to effectively communicate. Effectively communicate, not just with coworkers, but with teammates also. So examples of this would be like for the student to clarify questions when they're unsure, rather than saying, okay, I get it. And then they go and complete the task and they come back to report and you're like, yeah, that's not what I told you to do. If you didn't understand, you probably should have asked, right? So we want students to ask us questions when they don't understand, because we don't want them making mistakes. So ensuring that a student is asking questions when they're supposed to, that they're utilizing appropriate resources. We want to make sure that they're reporting to the proper channels, right? We don't want them reporting that the patient didn't take their medication to another CNA. We want to make sure that they're reporting that information actually to the nurse. So that's the proper channel. So making sure that your student is doing that. And then we want to make sure that they're charting correctly. Yeah, people are putting heart rates down where the SpO2 is supposed to go and vice versa. So make sure that they are writing those things in the right place. And then another thing that would go underneath the effective communication would also be that they understand the data that's actually in the chart, that they can read that data and come back to you and tell you effectively what that data actually means, especially when they're looking in the personal care plans and things like that. So let's get right into that one. The next one is utilization of the personal care plan. We want to make sure that our CNAs are actually utilizing the care plan. They're not just walking there and doing stuff to people. They're actually looking into the care plan, seeing what the resident needs, and then implementing those things. So we want to see that the CNA is identifying any modifications that are needed. We know that nurses look to their CNAs for that information. So if the care plan says that Miss Cooper needs help feeding, but yet Miss Cooper snatched that spoon from the CNA and started feeding herself, then the CNA needs to report that and say, hey, Miss Cooper's right arm's gotten stronger. She can eat on her own now. So we need to see that our CNA understands that in the care plan, okay? So that's an essential part of clinical evaluation criteria, right? Another thing would be that they're actually organizing their work. Whew. Have you worked with somebody that's unorganized? Yeah. I do not want to produce CNAs who are not organized. So making sure that your CNAs are organized and you're watching that is a valuable part of your evaluation criteria as well. All right, so another one is utilization of infection prevention methods. Utilization of infection prevention methods. Are they actually washing their hands like you taught them in class, or are they just in there doing a rush job because they're in clinical and they think you're not looking? Are they wearing PPE properly? Okay, why are you wearing an isolation gown, gloves, mask, and everything else, and this patient isn't on any isolation at all? Or what are you doing in that MRSA room with nothing but gloves on? I've seen it. So make sure, well, my CNA was doing it. I don't care what your CNA was doing. You need to do what's right. So make sure that those students know when and how to wear PPE in the right setting, and that they're actually able, another one is that they're actually able to interpret the signage, because signage is different at different facilities. So make sure that your students understand what that signage means. It might be color coded for to protect patient privacy, who knows, but make sure they understand the difference between contact versus airborne and so forth, right? And that another one is utilization of safe procedures, and that they're actually providing security to residents' property. So I'll say that again: utilization of safe procedures and providing security to residents. Some examples of that would be that they're actually aiding the resident in ambulation properly. If they're supposed to have a walker, they're actually using the walker. They're not just trying to hurry up and grab her by her arm and take her where she needs to go when you walk in, and you see that. They need to remove any hazardous items like a rug from the floor so that Miss Parker doesn't trip, right? That they actually recognize when a patient or resident is ambulating ineffectively or dangerously, so that they can alert the nurse to get them the proper equipment that they need. So make sure that you're looking at that also. All right, another one is display of professional appearance. So we talked about that in the last video, right? Professional appearance is another criteria you need to look at. Are they coming in nice and clean and neat with the uniform you gave them or told them to wear? Or are they coming in kind of looking like last night with some clothes they had in their back seat and smelling like a cat litter box? We don't want that in clinical. So make sure that your student understands that there's a certain level of professionalism there, and that you expect a certain appearance. In your evaluation criteria, you lay that out to them, and they have no choice but to abide by that. And if they don't, you can hold them accountable to it because they signed off to it. All right, so last but not least, we have an attendance area. So are you on time? Are you ready when you get here? Did you leave all of your stuff in the car and you got to keep going back and forth to your car to get your books? That's a problem. Are you constantly tardy? Or are you just tardy and didn't even tell me you were going to be tardy? Can I get a phone call first to at least know that you're running a little late today as a professional courtesy? Things like that. Is your student maintaining the attendance policy per your handbook? Because remember, this takes back to another video that we talked about this. Your students are supposed to have a student handbook, and not all states require you to write a student handbook. But again, if something happens and the student complains to the state, they are going to be looking for that. So your student handbook has a multitude of things in it. I mean, it goes all the way to some of the things we talked about professional policies, about HIPAA compliance. It talks about how many days you can miss. It talks about what holidays are observed. So your student handbook is a very in-depth resource for your students to reference. It also talks about different criteria they need to meet, things like that. The handbook can be very in-depth, and there are some parts of it that people don't even think about. So if you are looking to start a CNA school and you need to write a handbook, I definitely consult and I help people start their CNA schools. I do consult to help write those books, and I also consult to do curriculums. So please keep Victoria Randle, your pusher, in mind if you need some assistance with that. Otherwise, if you look down below, you'll see a link to my very next seminar. Well, I give you all these forms. There's another video that I did that talks about the top 8 forms that you need, and this form that we're talking about right now, which is the evaluation criteria, is one of those forms. If you have not looked already, please go through my videos and find the top 8 secret forms that you need for your CNA school, because there I talk about those 8 forms, and this one happens to be one of them. If you like this video and you found it to be very, very informative, please share, please like, and please subscribe. Until then, your pusher is out, Victoria Randle, and thank you so much for joining the CNA Instructor's Secret Cocktail. You have a good day.